Welcome back to GOAT Stadiums, your go-to source for the latest updates on the world's most iconic football stadiums. Before we dive into today's construction update, we need to talk about something incredible. Barcelona win the Spanish Super Cup again, champions once more. Barça claimed their 15th Spanish Super Cup title with an incredible performance. What a moment for the club and the fans. And here's a crazy fact. Barcelona have been unbeaten in Spanish competitions since Leo Messi visited the Spotify Camp Nou. The legend came back, and Barcelona haven't lost since. Coincidence? I don't think so. And speaking of Camp Nou, the construction site is buzzing with activity this week. But there's a question we need to address. Will the north goal section actually open this January as promised? Let's get into it. Let's start with the compression ring, because this week brought a genuine surprise. 2 pillars were already installed, and a third smaller pillar has now been staged near the corner zone. But here's what caught everyone off guard. A massive new beam arrived on site, and it's significantly larger than the standard compression ring pillars we've seen before. This isn't just another support column. The scale is enormous, almost reminiscent of the early days when the main structural frame was going up. It's positioned near the lateral zone, and there's also additional material for the third-tier openings piled up behind New Jersey barriers. The sheer size of this new piece signals that major structural work for the upper levels is about to intensify. The lateral zone is where slat installation is most visible right now. Teams have been working on the lower sections, forming the false ceiling around the brackets, and it's looking cleaner and more defined each day. 3 sectors are prepared with supports and anchors in place, but there's still a considerable amount of work left to connect everything. Lift platforms and cranes are busy lowering slats into position, and the process is methodical. Each piece is carefully secured before moving to the next. However, the gaps between sectors remain open, and those connections won't happen until more slats are installed. It's steady progress, but it's not rapid. Over at the south goal area, crews achieved a key milestone this week. A large diagonal support piece was successfully connected to one of the pillars, and workers spent the day securing it with crane chains before moving on to the next section. This diagonal bracing is critical because it stabilizes the structure for slat installation. The south goal zone is clearly more advanced than the north, with lift platforms actively working on staircase structures and positioning materials. Prefabricated stands continue arriving daily, and painting crews are finishing walls and beams despite windy conditions. The south goal is shaping up to be the next major area for full slat coverage. Now here's the highlight of the week. For the first time, slat supports are being installed in the central part of the north goal area. This was genuinely unexpected because this zone has lagged behind other sections for weeks. Workers lifted and secured the first and second support pieces, and you can see the framework starting to take shape. The anchors are already in place on the lower levels, and prefabricated stands are being delivered continuously. However, the Tribuna area remains the only major section without visible slat supports, and that's expected to change soon. The north goal opening is still targeted for January, but with only days left in the month, it's unclear if that timeline is realistic. Let's talk about 2 areas that saw significant movement this week. The parking ramp is almost finished. Formwork panels have been removed from the right wall, with only a few wooden boards left to clear. Crews were also cutting or perforating concrete near the wall floor joint, likely creating a separation gap for structural reasons. Meanwhile, the diamond zone, which had been quiet for weeks, suddenly came back to life. Fresh excavation work was completed in the frontal area, and a crane is now staged to move materials around. Multiple pallets covered in blue plastic are stored nearby, and prefabricated stair sections were delivered and temporarily placed on the overhang. This signals renewed activity in a zone that had stalled. Up in the Tribuna area, finishing work is accelerating. Rock wool insulation is now fully installed in the upper sections. closing all the gaps where drywall was previously visible. Escalator maintenance crews were spotted working with protective tarps and rubber handrails, suggesting mechanical systems are being tested or fine-tuned. Prefabricated staircases were also relocated within the stadium, possibly being repositioned for installation in different sectors. There's a lot of equipment movement here. Red cranes, lift platforms, and machinery are constantly shifting materials. The Tribuna remains the last major area without slat supports, but given the pace elsewhere, that's likely the next focus once current zones are completed. Not everything went smoothly this week. An unusual water pooling issue was observed in the lower cantilever area, where a small pool formed with no visible drainage outlet. It's unclear if this is a temporary issue or a design oversight, but it's definitely not standard. Additionally, the slat installation pace remains slower than many fans anticipated. While multiple zones are seeing activity, the overall speed suggests a cautious, phased approach rather than an aggressive push. Whether this is due to quality control, coordination challenges, or material supply isn't clear. What is clear is that the January deadline for the North Goal section is looking increasingly tight, with less than 2 weeks remaining. So, where does that leave us? This week delivered real progress across multiple fronts. The compression ring continues expanding with new pillars and that massive structural beam, while the south goal and lateral zones are steadily advancing with slat installations. The surprise was definitely the north goal finally seeing its first slat supports go up. That's a critical step forward. The parking ramp is nearly complete. The diamond zone is active again after weeks of silence, and the Tribuna is moving into finishing stages with insulation and escalator work. But here's the reality check. The slat installation is slower than expected, and the North Goal January opening is looking uncertain. Next week will be crucial to see if Barcelona can accelerate the pace or if timelines need adjusting. We'll be back with another update soon to track how this unfolds. If you found this update helpful, hit that like button and subscribe to GOAT Stadiums for weekly construction coverage. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.